Good afternoon, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to the continuation of this meeting of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport Affairs, number 7 for today, Wednesday, August 24th, 2022. I would like to give a special welcome to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, and his support staff. We have established a quorum of 5 factions. Let us please stand for a moment of silence. I have received notice of absence from the following members of Parliament: MP William Marlin, MP Sitat Bijlani. Are there any other? No? Okay, so this is it for the members who are absent. Do I have any notifications? No? The agenda points for the committee meeting are as follows. Discussion with the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports on review of pending initiatives and/or plans regarding the development and implementation of a comprehensive St. Martin History course program in secondary school curriculum. And an update from the Minister on existing and potential textbooks to facilitate such a curriculum, IS 749-2020-2021, dated June 15, 2021. On June 15, 2022, Parliament received a letter from MP Gomes and MP Peterson with the request that a meeting of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports be convened in the presence of the respective minister and relevant civil servants with the aforementioned agenda points. It is good to note that today's meeting is a continuation of the meeting which was adjourned on April 14th, 2022, during which, after the presentations by the then Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport on agenda point, members of Parliament were then given the opportunity to pose their questions to the Minister. Today, the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport Affairs, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, has returned to Parliament to provide the answers to the questions posed by the members of Parliament. Before we go over to the agenda points, I would like to propose that both agenda points be combined to one, considering that the presentation of the Minister included both topics. Members of Parliament? Thank you. I now give the floor to the Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to answer the questions posed by the members of Parliament. Minister Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you and to the Griffier. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament. I would like to indicate this afternoon that I have with me as supporting staff, to my right, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Mrs. Shermina Powell-Richardson. And then further to my right, I have the head of the Department of Culture, Ms. Clara Reyes, and to my left, I have the division head of Education Division, Education Innovations, Ms. Orly Boyrad. Madam Chair, in the first meeting, I have made a presentation of the different type of schools and how history lesson is given in the different type of schools. And I also did indicate what type of material is being used at the moment as resources and how that is being done. And today I will answer the questions that were posed by the honorable members of Parliament. I must indeed indicate that there were many, so bear with me as I present the members of Parliament with the answers to their questions. And the first question is coming from the Member of Parliament, MP Gomes. Regarding the material, is there any discussions to develop more actual textbooks related to St. Martin history? The focus of the ministry is to promote the development of content on the history of St. Martin. The ministry, with a local archivist, the late Alfonso Blyden, discussed the development of literature that could be used in high schools and proposed, the archivist proposed the follow-up and a proposal was done to follow up with local publishers to have the work published. And based on information that we have received, this proposal should be in the making. What kind of assessment is done in regards to the teaching of these textbooks? The competent authority, which is the school board, is prescribed by law to ensure the quality and delivery of education, and thus is responsible to monitor and assess the delivery of instruction for all subject areas. The third question, we have to face the reality that some teachers are from outside and will get a crash course. And I would like to indicate that USM has an acculturation program for the training of all teachers that come from abroad, and teachers can benefit from this training. History, etc. development. The ministry should also look at building a national archive, either physical or digital. Now, the National Archives fall under the Ministry of General Affairs. The structure / draft formation plan of the National Archive is currently at the Archives Department. The establishment of a physical or digital National Archive is possible, and the UNESCO office can assist and have us assisted by experts in the field. MP Duncan. What does the minister believe is his ministry's role in the development of national identity? It is the ministry's mandate to safeguard, promote, and develop the culture and heritage of St. Martin. The ministry has a supporting role to agencies, cultural organizations, artistic training center, scholarly institutions, knowledge bearers, and practitioners of cultural traditions. Under this year's theme of culture confidence, the ministry is tasked to put in place structures and legislation that support the development and fostering of nation building. By creating a platform for dialogue, free expression, and debates for the organic evolution of said nation building, which leads to a national identity. Culture also plays a key role in the development of a national identity, dialogues and consultations that answer to key questions on who are we, what are we, why are we. Cultural practices and activities are key in understanding who we are as a people, from our past, our present, and our future. The vision is to develop laws and our policies that support these components and cement our national symbols with established national decrees. The St. Martin national symbols in place that are building blocks include a national flag, national anthem, which needs to be worked on, the national days of observances, and activities in St. Martin that help foster the development of sense of belonging to St. Martin that are building blocks towards national identity. The national days and observances and the creation of the St. Martin National Anthem and the other days are the National Day of Prayer, the Treaty of Concordia, Carnival season, Flag Day, Emancipation Day, Constitution Day, St. Martin Day, and National Thanksgiving Day. All these activities help to foster and build the atmosphere towards the development of national identity. The ministry is very active in creating events that pull the community together to foster the climate of inclusion and offer celebration of our key heritage and traditions. In regards to the heritage motion of January 2022, How far is the establishment of the multidisciplinary work group? The ministry has not established a multidisciplinary work group. The draft motion of January 21st, 2022 requests the ministry to establish a Heritage Week. The Department of Culture has identified the week before St. Martin's Day as a heritage period where collaborations with cultural organizations will create a culture calendar to foster the furtherance and development of celebrating St. Martin cultural traditions. Are there any current bottlenecks that the ministry is facing in relation to establishment of a work group? The Department of Culture focused on the formation of a Heritage Week as was clearly mandated by the motion. The mandate to form a work group was not interpreted as a direct request to the department from the work group, to form a work group. Thus, the focus was to establish the Heritage Week based on our calendar of national days and observance that the department is tasked with daily and execute without the assistance of a specific body of a multidisciplinary work group. These events are put together with the collaboration and consultation with the other department, and such the approach and process is a multidisciplinary in nature. Does the ministry employ any curriculum developers? If yes, how many? And how many FTEs are there available? The position of the curriculum developer is the position for a curriculum developer. The formation is placed within the formation of the Division of Education Innovation. There is one FTE for this position. Over the past years, several attempts to fill the vacancy was unsuccessful, but presently we are still busy with it again. It is even so bad that when going through the media, I saw that someone graduated as a curriculum developer and asked the ministry to see if they get in touch with a person, because, you know, every time we put out an ad, we were not getting the results that we were looking for. How far is the draft plan for the establishment of a culture council? The Department of Culture has started the draft plan for the Cultural Council, and it is expected to be finalized by the end of the fourth quarter. This includes the plan of action towards the trajectory of establishment of the Culture Council. Minister, does the Department of Culture need assistance, whether technical or otherwise, to accomplish the objectives related to heritage? What kind of assistance? Yes, the four core pillars of the culture creative industry are art, heritage, media, and creative services. Under this year's theme of culture confidence, the Department of Culture has identified the arts and heritage sectors as the two pillars of focus. In order to have cultural activities, creative industry, heavy investments in the arts are necessary. Of equal importance is the heritage sector, which needs as much intervention and investment as the arts segment. The heritage sector can lead to culture tourism and heritage tourism. As example of what works needs to be carried out, we need to collect data on trees, stone walls, wells, old buildings, and monuments, archaeological sites, salt ponds, and written sources. For this, the project needs researchers, inspectors, and documentalists, among others. What role does the Department of Education play as it regards the development of curriculum? Currently, curriculum used in St. Martin schools, the curriculum used in St. Martin schools comprise of national curricula, which were developed locally, developed in the former Netherlands Antilles, or were developed by various examinations bodies used for certification within the secondary school levels. The role of the Department of Education is to develop, evaluate, and establish curriculum or amendments where necessary. What role does the Division of Education Innovation play as it regards the development of a curriculum? The role of the Division of Education Innovation is to draft, review, and adjust the content of the curriculum, taking into account identified improvement goals established in policy, and also provide the updated curriculum and support to school teams once the curriculum is adjusted. Is the Ministry of General Affairs and ECYS working together on nation building and heritage? If yes, how? If no, why not? Yes, they are working together. As part of the ministry's policy-based budgeting format, 3 impact goals were established under which the ministry designs its year plan. Impact goal number 3 states, nation building, social cohesion, and identity development through education, culture, and sports. The sub-goals facilitate and mobilize preservation and support of St. Martin monuments. The outcomes are as follows: that the residents are aware of the St. Martin intangible and tangible heritage, and that the responsibility to actively participate in the development of the culture as their common foundation for current and future generations. Under this year's theme of culture confidence, the following activities that is under execution at the Department of Culture are geared towards nation building. Present and produce all national days and observances. Under construction and work in progress is Connect with TV, Culture TV program, a format built around interviewing elders in the community. Also, Intangible Cultural Heritage Awareness Campaign in collaboration with Unesco. And advice to protect our national days and observances from being sidelined by permits given to activities in conflict with national days and observances. Question 10. In the FBE exam, what questions about St. Martin are featured and why? Questions in the FBE exam contain and refer to St. Martin. The questions about St. Martin that are featured are based on the curriculum standards and core objectives of the education areas. Under language, literacy, and communication, English and Dutch, mathematics subjects, and all situations refer to St. Martin that can relate to being citizens and residents or residents of St. Martin. Under man and society and man, nature, and technology, questions about St. Martin are featured under the domain named Culture and History of St. Martin, St. Martin. All questions of the FBA exams books are made available and can be purchased and perused. The following question: has there been any discussions with school boards on the possibility to develop a joint local history curriculum? Not as yet. Is the minister willing to work with schools to assess and develop a national history and heritage curriculum? Yes. The Department of Culture is working on creating cultural content through its interaction and engagement with the various cultural specialists, practitioners, and knowledge bearers. The content are available to school curriculum developers. The Department of Culture and UNESCO are currently in the process of establishing working documents and programs based on intangible heritage of St. Martin. How frequently is social studies materials updated in schools? School boards are responsible for the quality of education provided by schools and have the responsibility for identifying appropriate resources for delivering education. To support the delivery of social studies, the ministry developed resource material several years ago. The ministry is to evaluate every 3 to 5 years. Resources have not been updated recently. However, an updated terms of reference is developed for further update of these material. What budget allocations exist to focus on the proposed work group and the creation of a plan to ensure that new approaches to education is developed? The budget post-education reform of the Department of Education can be used to allocate funds for the proposed work group. Is there a draft culture law? If yes, where is it in its development? There is a draft. Research was conducted on established laws, and the department met with internal stakeholders for their input. So the draft is really in its infant stages. Minister, how can students get access to more historical and cultural information than what is provided to them in class? Is such a system in development? The I-RICH, which is I Remember Intangible Cultural Heritage Program, which the ministry will be launching soon, will include content for schools and teachers. Students have access to our library also for physical and digital information. They may make use of the internet, which also provides historical information. And our archive department, the museum, elders and historians, and they are also able to request information from the Department of Culture. How does the ministry plan to partner with the youth and civil society organization when it is time to develop this curriculum? Engagement of key stakeholders is an integral part of research. On this topic, research will be done among the youth, seniors, and society organizations for content contributions. What role will our UNESCO office play? I believe that courses were done at USM on heritage and identity. Can information on these courses be provided to Parliament? The role of the UNESCO office regarding history and heritage in schools is to assist with documenting, recording, and sharing of information about St. Martin cultural heritage. Thus, the office, in collaboration with the Cultural Department, compiled the first National Intangible Cultural Heritage Inventory List of St. Martin. The UNESCO office is presently collaborating with the Culture Department to launch the I-RICH campaign, I Remember Intangible Cultural Heritage, which will result in the creation of a website, posters, magazines, coloring books, public service announcements, and other material about St. Martin cultural heritage. The materials created will be available to the public and shared especially with educators/teachers to ensure that this information is in schools and used when teaching the social studies curriculum. The name of that course at USM is HIS 190-St. Martin History and Cultural Heritage. And the website has been provided so you can see the content of the course. How can the library assist the ministry or schools in regards to local history and heritage? The library has the St. Martin collection available to the public, to which many of our youths make use of. The library also has digital information available to the public. Has the ministry asked for advice of local archivists and historians on the development of school books? Yes. The ministry met, for example, with our past archivist, the late Alfonso Blyden, to discuss the development of literature that could be used in high schools. Would this new curriculum include history of the French side, and has the government connected with counterparts on the North about such an endeavor? Yes, the literature should include information from both counterparts of St. Martin in accordance with the curriculum. When it comes to culture, both countries, Dutch and French side of St. Martin, have resemblances and have involvement on both sides. Engaging key stakeholders is an integral part of research to advise regarding required changes to the curriculum. What negative implications, if any, does the minister see if nothing is done now about the curriculum? Curriculum reforms takes place to ensure that the content of the curriculum meets the objectives of national goals. As such, If a need for change is identified to better meet the national goals and nothing is done, national goals may not be attained. Then we have the questions from Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott Williams. Indicate if and what is the plan. Indicate if and what of this plan was undertaken. Was there some type of evaluation? And the question refers to the strategic plan of 2016-2026, of which I really walk with a copy every time I go. The strategic plan of 2016-26 is a dynamic plan that serves as a roadmap. As of 2017, key focus are reflected in the MECI's Resilience Plan, the National Recovery and the Resilience Plan, and the governing program. The actual actions and results are embedded in the planning and control cycle through the budget and annual reports that are presented to Parliament. Several initiatives detailed in the strategic plan 2016 to 2026 have been and are being undertaken. And I have a list of 10. By the Department of Education, these include education reform. Ongoing dialogue is currently taking place with the stakeholders in the field of education and the private sector regarding recommendations related to education reform at the secondary education level. Number 2, language policy. Preliminary fact-finding and research has begun. 3, improvements in special needs. The process towards establishing the special needs is in an advanced stage, and projects are ongoing for the construction of schools that are equipped to cater to students with varying special needs, educational needs. 4, support of the University of St. Martin. A funding model for the funding of higher education institutions has been developed and has been used to fund USM. The Higher Education Ordinance is at an advanced stage in the ratification process. Memorandum of Understanding being established between the government, USM, and its partners at UVI for the provision of ongoing professional development for education professionals is also established. We also have digital education. The enhancement of digital education has been supported by improving digital infrastructure and digital learning environments in schools, connecting all classrooms to the internet, and increasing the number of devices available to students and teachers to support instructions. I can even mention here that at least with the public schools, it is the intention this year to outfit every classroom with a digital board and every teacher with a laptop. Number 6, professional development program for educational professionals. Memorandum of Understanding being established between government, USM, and its partners at UVI for the provision of ongoing professional development for education professionals, and launch of program in 2022, which took place, right? Scholarship policies. The Ordinance on Study Finance established. National decree to be vetted by Department of Legal Affairs within short, and priority list establishing the island's needs is in development, also a work in progress. Provision of summer school program. A summer school program is being introduced to maximize the potential of our students. The policy has been developed with the field of education, and the pilot just took place in the summer, which was a success. Required repairs of schools. Repairs of schools are ongoing, and we hope that they can, finish as soon as possible so that the rust in the schools can return. School busing policy. A new school busing policy has been approved. A digital fleet tracking system and legal framework for provision of the services is at an advanced stage of development. The Department of Culture is currently executing the following. To support cultural activities and creative industries, the Department of Culture focuses on the establishment of the culture creative industry guided by 4 core pillars of the arts, heritage, media, and creative services. Under the theme Culture Confidence, the Department of Culture, through its production of national days and observances, creates experiential cultural activities in collaboration with renowned scholars, historians, cultural specialists, cultural activists, and knowledge bearers that offer historical accounts of pivotal St. Martin historic events. Additionally, the department creates creative forums with experts in the field to inform and on developing trends in the creative sector. Also support and funds artists and institutions to further tertiary education in the arts, and also assist with formation of the Artists Guild in the planning stages of Culture Awards and is in the planning stages of a Culture Awards ceremony. To ensure that St. Martin culture, creative arts, heritage, cultural rights, and cultural diversity are available digitally as well as experientially through organizations of national days and observances, as well as currently engaging in interviewing the elders, soon to be launched program entitled Connect with Culture, available digitally. Third, to actively protect and promote the national tangible and intangible cultural heritage of St. Martin, the department is working on the establishment of the Monument Law Fund, amending the current maritime ordinance to include components of the articles of the Underwater Heritage Convention, establishing a work relationship with the Monument Council, and reviewing current historical buildings / ruins and enslavement walls for inclusion on the monument list. The open direction for schools to decide what and how they teach is a matter of concern. The curriculum for primary and secondary education is available for schools for the delivery of education. However, in accordance with the Constitution of St. Martin, which establishes freedom of education, school boards have the freedom to create and source content. However, the Ministry of Education, Culture, and Sports has also provided schools with resource material to support education delivery. The third question from Member of Parliament MP Westcott. What is the intended results for the G1 of the country packages? Measure G1 of the St. Martin country reform package addresses the educational issues. The reforms and measures related to education aim to: 1, realize a basic quality of education, realize a good connection between education and the labor market, realize a good flow between systems of education, whether or not in the European Netherlands. St. Martin mission is to review the education system with the purpose of enhancing the quality of education, improving the educational system in St. Martin, reducing inefficiencies and improving resource development, and also enhancing the connection of St. Martin education with quality education in the region or elsewhere. Question 4, there is an interim education report ready. Is it ready? Can the report be shared? The final draft of the interim report has been shared with Parliament, and I welcome the opportunity to share a presentation on the report and its finding to Parliament at Parliament's earliest convenience. How did the minister get the resource material? How did the minister get this information? Regarding the material and information, the schools were contacted. Is there a list? Does the minister not think there should be a list? Yes, I believe there should be a list. Does the ministry have any thoughts or any ideas of the curriculum material and teaching of St. Martin heritage in our curriculum? There is a vast amount of resource material that is currently available for the delivery of the curriculum related to St. Martin heritage. This includes resource material provided by the ministry, various published books, including that of local authors and publishers, as presented to Parliament in the presentation, as well as the inventory of St. Martin cultural heritage compiled in the collaboration with St. Martin Unesco's office. Is the cultural policy framework being updated? The framework is general in its current state and is still being used. Parts of the framework is being worked out further to utilize to update the current structure of the department and its laws and policies. Will the ministry look at who is a St. Martiner? Is there any action being undertaken in this regards? No. All activities produced in the ministry are geared towards the upliftment of the St. Martin heritage and featuring the voices of the founding fathers and mothers. Through our national days and observances, produced in collaboration with many key cultural organizations, the general public is able to partake in culturally rich activities that celebrate St. Martin heritage. Through the various events, activities, forums, policies, and research through UNESCO, the traditions that have led to formation of the society are presented to the St. Martin public. Furthermore, it is necessary to mention that professional research that require entities that specialize in specifics of this narrative, and we're talking about the St. Martiner, is needed. It would also be irresponsible of me to present glib's response to a process that has to be thorough and guided by skilled persons specialized in this narrative. Then we have the questions of Member of Parliament Rumu. There is a curriculum within FBE. When last has there been an evaluation? What is the update on the social studies books? The ministry has begun the process of the evaluation of the implementation of foundation-based education. The evaluation of the FBE curriculum will be one of the components of this review. Updates on the social studies workbooks. Plans are in the process to contract a consultant who will review the contents of the present FBE social studies material and draft an addendum for the subject areas that are outdated. The content for the addendum are in the textbooks from group 6, 7, and 8. Then I have questions from Member of Parliament Brownbill. MP Brownbill indicated he had a debate with the Youth Parliament about culture and looking for one book that has the substance in it related to the history of St. Martin instead of having several books. A history book can be written by any author with such aspirations. A comprehensive history book covering the history of St. Martin to be used as an instructional method in primary and secondary education can only be written based on approved curriculum and standards. The ministry is equally desirous of creating content towards the publishing of historical books. However, that process is a lengthy process which requires the engagement of numerous specialists and a standardization process. For history books to be written based on curriculum development, research must take place. You need research authors, directors, analysts to create the very books that are necessary. St. Martin has a rich inventory of books produced by the House of Nehesi, as well as independent publishing houses that cover a variety of topics, historical as well as creative writing, scholarly research, and thesis from numerous master students from St. Martin who have made the study of St. Martin's narrative the topic of their research. The inventory is available at the library and in some cases at the museum. There are numerous visual artists at home and abroad who have made St. Martin's experience their canvas of study and investigation. This plethora of records are readily available digitally as well as in hard copy. For the specific target of a history book, this requires a lengthy process involving researchers and scholars setting standards. To create various books available for the intergenerational educational system, history books for kindergarten, history books for elementary schools, history books for secondary institutions. This is a complex and lengthy process. Creating one history book includes their various standards and the intergenerational audience from K1 to 12 grades. Is there an official museum place for students to learn history and culture? Yes. How accurate is the information given today? Schools are responsible for the quality of education provided by their schools and have the responsibility for identifying appropriate resources for delivering education in accordance with the established curriculum. To support the delivery of social studies, the ministry developed resources several years ago. The answer was given. Will we consult the elders about our history? Engaging key stakeholders is an integral part of research to advise regarding required changes to the curriculum. Definitely, as elders are key contact persons who can provide information on the history of St. Martin. Elders are currently being interviewed and their content made available to the public. And then I have the final question. A culture program was developed by USM for teachers coming into the island. Yes, this was the case in 2014, and this was provided to USM. Earlier on in giving the answers, I also indicated that the link to this material was provided. So as per the new school year, USM has included this in the Bachelor's of Arts program for elementary education, and persons in the community who would like to follow this class can also register to participate at USM. Madam Chairlady, when we listen to the answers, we can understand that establishing a curriculum needs research. It needs research and, let's say, contact with various persons in the community. The persons who is heading this research in the ministry is our Honorable Head of the Department of Culture, who I would like to give the word to elaborate a little bit on what it takes and what is necessary to establish a cultural history curriculum of St. Martin. Yeah. With your indulgence, can I give the word to
Ms. Clara Reyes, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairlady, and through you, all members of Parliament. A lot of the response was very eloquently elucidated in some of the responses, but we just wanted to highlight that this idea of creating this body of work is very process-oriented in that in the frame of mind and in the frame of time that we have since country status and prior to that, I think we have reached a phase where the investigative journey into ourselves is much more directive, and the necessary agencies that are able to produce scholarly research on this level is still a process in the making. So as much as we all want this fabulous historical accounts of St. Martin that's to be made available, there is indeed a process of acquiring the skilled scholars, the researchers, the analysts, all of them to put them in a perspective, and it's not an overnight journey. And I think the question was, can one text be made available? I wanted to add again that that segment of the study of this journey that we want to deliver to our community really involves the ministry's focus on deciding that this is the trajectory that we're going to all engage with collectively, and we're going to invest completely in acquiring the necessary skilled persons within the ministry to do this inventory and research and documentation of these historical books. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Minister, are you now, are you?
Madam Chair Lady, this concludes the answers to the questions of the members of Parliament. I
Thank you, Minister. I now look to the floor and I give the floor to MP Duncan.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the SG, my colleagues here in Parliament. Good afternoon to the Minister and the ladies from the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, and of course a good afternoon to everyone tuned in. Thank you for the answers, Minister, through you, Madam Chair. The answers to the questions posed. But if I have to be honest, Minister, I am still a little bit confused as it regards a definite action plan towards the creation of hard materials. I understood what Ms. Clara Reyes said. It is definitely a lengthy process, a complex, which I know the department has been working extremely hard to gather the information over the last few years. That is definitely the first steps. If I go back to the motion of January, it asked for a multidisciplinary work group specifically to target not only the creation of materials based on our culture and heritage, but also civics. In high school, what are our students learning about the ministers, about the MPs, about our political and judicial systems? That is also a very important part of what it means to develop our nation. So for me, as much as we understand how complex the process is, I am not sure what the tangible outcomes will be, or how our people, or what should our people expect based on what you've provided today. In 2 years, in 3 years, can we replace books like, and I'm pulling up the books that I myself have done research on, Social Studies for Lower Secondary, The Caribbean or Changing Environment. This is a book that, let's say, second formers in academy will be reading, a social studies book on the Caribbean. When will our students be able to replace this book with a book on St. Martin heritage or culture and civics? All of that can be included in one book. So will it take 2 years? Will it take 3 years? I would just like to know, Minister, through you, Madam Chair, if we have more tangible expectations. What was important as well, Minister, or always important, through you, Madam Chair, is the inclusion of the school boards, because indeed you mentioned that the school boards are responsible for quality of education, but government has a responsibility to ensure that this nation is built and that identity is something that takes priority. And that is why it is important that government works with the school boards. And so it's interesting to note that no discussions have taken place as yet with school boards on the development of the curriculum, or at least saying, okay, in 1 year, we can possibly create maybe a pamphlet on St. Martin heritage that is uniformed across all schools, maybe in a year. Minister, question 13, I have to go back to 13 by MP, or was it myself? I can't remember. The question was, how frequently are social studies materials updated in schools? And you mentioned that the ministry has to, through you, Madam Chair, evaluate every 3 to 5 years. A terms of reference is being developed. I didn't understand the answer to that question. Is the terms of reference being developed? That is question 13, I believe, from my set of questions. If you can provide more clarity on that. And I think that is it for me, Madam Chair. But just to reiterate to the Minister, through you, that what we really need is to understand the steps that are being taken to reach the goals that we have set for ourselves, and at the end to receive those materials that our students, our people can touch, feel, and read to understand not only who we are, but also where we're going. So there is a lot that is going on, but I think a more clearer picture needs to be painted for the people so that we understand what all is happening and towards what end. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Duncan. I now give the floor to MP Gumps.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you, Rafir again, colleagues, the Minister and his support staff, and those joining us for this meeting. Madam Chair, I just had one new question and then sort of a request for clarification, I think. So the question I have is what type and what frequency of training is being done or being planned for teachers to enhance their skill set so they can properly implement digital education methods in their classrooms? You know, it's one thing to put a digital board in every classroom, but if it's going to be sitting there collecting dust because a teacher does not feel comfortable using it to teach their students, then we're spending money on very expensive decorations. And just for clarification, I have to echo MP Duncan a bit because you mentioned advanced stage of the process 3 times in your answers regarding 2 very important topics that we've all spoken on in here, which is special needs and support to the University of St. Martin. The latter was very surprising to me to hear about the higher education ordinance being in an advanced stage, because we've heard that before from previous ministers, and it's been quite some time since there's been a tangible update about the subject. And I saw this week, I believe, that both the Ministry of ECYS and the Deputy Minister of TEAT endorsed that AUSM, American University School of Medicine, so that is going to be established in St. Martin, which I'll send further more specific questions in writing about that. But they've received a license and an endorsement without even that ordinance being in place. So I would like as well just something more concrete. Are we 1 month, 3 months, 6 months away from it being ratified and completed? And what feedback from USM in particular has been received regarding the ordinance? Because I'm not sure if USM had a hand in drafting it. So just to update and some clarity on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, and good afternoon once again. Good afternoon, Minister and his support staff. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Madam Chair Lady, I too want to sort of maybe piggyback somewhat on what my colleagues brought forward, because I did not get from the Minister's presentation a good, solid response. While I understand the challenges as eloquently put together by Ms. Reyes, let me pose the following questions, and Madam Chair Lady, if the Minister can really zoom in to them to give some perspective. That's what I for sure did not get. The question is today that we have been dealing with, that this meeting was called for, how can we better ensure a good representation of St. Martin in all its facets in our education system? That's what we are trying to get. And Minister, the reason why I, and I'm sure many of my colleagues, are hammering on this, because at some point, clear priorities need to be made. And if together we're deciding that what Ms. Reyes explained is necessary and a priority, the research, the skilled scholars to assist us, etc., then we need to be able to say that is what it will be as a priority. And because I still feel that while completely in agreement with the minister, Madam Chair Lady, the fact that, especially where it comes to education, we have the competent authorities, which in our case are the school boards, and they have their own responsibilities, their own freedoms, their own authorities. That is granted. However, the major laws governing our education system today are, of course, those on foundation-based education and advanced/secondary education. So the ordinances on those two. However, Minister, these ordinances, while identifying the competent authority, which for public is the ministry, and you also have the privatized/subsidized school boards. However, there are some core objectives. There are some profiles of what should be in the curriculum. And in several cases, the ministry has the possibility to establish further, at least the context, the framework in which all of this must be taught in our education system. So when we talk about history, culture, civics, my specific question is, in the review that the minister has announced for, amongst other laws, the law on foundation-based education, how serious are we going to attempt that in that review we incorporate, even in general terms, what we want our students to learn regarding St. Martin first? You start there, you broaden it a little into the region, and then you go internationally. Because I do believe that the ministry/the minister has the possibility, maybe even the authority, to establish at least that framework. It can be a free-for-all. Competent authority, bevoegd gezag or not. We are able, according to me, we are able to establish at least the framework within which the stakeholders then have the freedom to just like how ours are established in our laws, so we must be able to give at least an indication. So, Minister, in that review, again, yeah, and I agree, we can't just jump up and say, take a little piece of history from me and a little piece from the next one and say, well, no, this has to be researched, because there's so many aspects, angles, and facets of our history, and we want all of it. When we are going to teach history, we want all of it. Our history is too colorful to just take out parts that I might know a little bit of, and Clara knows a lot of it, but there's so much to it, and we got to make sure we get it all. We're not going to be giving no little pieces here and subjective views and that kind of thing. But Minister, if we do, because right now our students are being taught, and if we don't establish the context, then what are they telling our students? What pieces of our history are they picking out and giving, and then maybe don't have the other parts? So there must be a framework, especially where it pertains to our narrative and our story. There must be a framework established by the highest authority responsible for education. So in these national decrees that the minister is authorized to establish based on the laws that are there now, we need to see if we can give context to some of the things that are being taught in our educational system. Point 2. Madam Chair Lady, I am happy that the minister referred to USM on more than one occasion and in more than one context, because not too long ago, the president of the University of St. Martin made a public outcry regarding the law on higher education / the law on tertiary education. Madam Chair Lady, I think if there's one thing that we should guard against, is that our university becomes again a political football that it was some years ago. When apparently between government and USM and a MOU, not a MOU, who in favor of the MOU, who is not in favor of the MOU. So very specifically, Minister, I don't know if you have, through you, Madam Chair Lady, I don't know if the minister has taken note of what I consider the outcry by the president of the University of St. Martin. And then when I read and see that, I ask myself, and then I support the question as asked before by one of my colleagues. So what is the issue with the law on higher education? Because remember, Minister, and I'm sure you know this just as well as the next person, our higher education law was on the brink of being established, on the part rather of being established when we became country. We were going to be part of the revised law on higher education for the Netherlands Antilles. But then, becoming country, we needed to now have our own law on higher education. Saying that to say that since then, this has been in the make. And the question is, and I would like to hear that from the minister, Madam Chair Lady, what is really the issue to get the law on higher education to the parliament? Because differently than many persons think, that draft law is not here at parliament. But Minister, after all of this time, can the ministry tell us in here what is honestly the issue? Why? First, we were some time ago, we were told, oh, we contracted a consultant to draft that law. But the law still is in its advanced stages. Does the USM know where the law is at? Because again, Madam Chair Lady, I want to repeat, we need to avoid a repeat of what we had a couple of years ago regarding the University of St. Martin. I remember the current Prime Minister going through a whole debacle with the USM regarding this MOU, one would recall. So, Madam Chair Lady, I think the minister should make sure that there is some understanding with the University of St. Martin regarding where this law is and what it will take to get the law to Parliament. Madam Chair Lady, thirdly, the Education Supervision Draft Law. Same thing. What is the issue with that draft law? Where is it currently? Would that not help many of the areas that today we are faced with that we can't tackle as inspection, the inspection of the ministry, because of the lack of an education supervision law. So what's the issue there? And Madam Chair Lady, if this is where the ministry's budget needs to be directed, then let us do that. But we can't continue Madam Chair Lady, I have here wetgevingskalender OCJS 2016-2018. Trajecten. Landsverordening hoger en wetenschappelijk onderwijs. Wijziging landsverordening funderend onderwijs. Wijziging landsverordening voortgezet onderwijs. Landsverordening onderwijstoezicht. And we go on these trajectories. 2016-18 wetgevingskalender. So what are our priorities in terms of legislation? And Minister, please explain us what's the issue your ministry is facing with getting these laws in place. What is it? Is it money? Is it political will lacking? Is it what is it? Honestly speaking, I don't mean your political will through you, Madam Chair Lady. I mean generally, are you facing a tug of war with respect to these laws is my question. Madam Chair Lady, number 4. Education review according to the country package. Madam Chair Lady, I consider it a privilege, really, to have been part of the final review of the interim report on education. Asked to participate in that by the inspectorate. And I honestly consider it a privilege. I don't agree with the country package as is, but nevertheless, I was asked and I participated. However, the ministry then I was made to understand from the minister that there is to be a comparative analysis. So, Madam Chair Lady, I need to understand how these 2-3 things are going to work. Because one of my issues with the way the country package is formulated and addressed is the fact that I think the TWO seemingly has one trajectory and the different ministries another trajectory. So, yes, the minister provided the interim report to Parliament on the 26th of July. I think we received it during the recess, but we got it. And so how is this trajectory supposed to meet up? So the comparative analysis, is this going to tell us what has already happened from the interim report? And then if that is the case, then my question is, why aren't these things brought together? Why are we going to get an interim report that says all of these things need to be done, including these laws, education supervision, and on the other hand, the ministry already has certain things, well, these are happening. Why can't those 2 things be brought together is my question. So that when the Parliament and the people of St. Martin receive this report, it is, these are the things we like to review, reform, as we like to call it in the country package, and these are the things that are already done, are being done by the ministry. That's what I want to see. I don't want an interim report coming from left field and a comparative analysis from right field, and then trying to figure out where are we with respect to education on St. Martin. Madam Chair Lady, I referred for number 5. I referred to the different trajectories, and specifically I want to know about the law on higher education. What's the issue there? In that wetgevings trajectory, so legislative trajectory, mention is also made of a culture ordinance, an ordinance on the culture of St. Martin. Is that still, it states it here, under de nieuwe wetgevingstrajecten, the proposal is a cultuurlandsverordening. Is that still in the thinking of the ministry that we get such? Because if we have a cultuurlandsverordening and we put certain things in the cultuurlandsverordening, we can ensure that they happen in our education system. Because you have a national ordinance looking at our culture from a broad perspective. Madam Chair Lady, that was with respect to this draft ordinance. And as I mentioned before, Madam Chair Lady, if we could just get a little better insight into what does it take for us to at least start the process of putting a certain context in terms of what should be taught in our educational system regarding St. Martin. Should it be, and maybe this is something that, yeah, this what I'm going to say and ask because I know the different views on it. Should we leave it up to anybody's opinion what resources are used in our schools for example, history or culture or, you know, and so that's a question that we stood, is the freedom, is that part of the overall freedom, or do we want to say, well, you know, at least put it in a, I don't want to say a box, that will be too limitative, but you know, we got to give direction. That's what I'm looking for. I believe that it is the government's responsibility to give a certain direction. Everybody can't come here and decide what they're going to teach. They're going to teach for culture and history and civics and books written by some politicians who are liked and others who are not liked. And this, no, it can't. We need to have the true narrative with all of its good, its bad, and indifferent. But there needs to be some understanding, some agreement on the whole. Madam Chair Lady, I have some other questions, but I think they fit better on the topic that we will be discussing. I believe it's tomorrow with the minister, so I would leave it here, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. Any need from other members of parliament to have the floor? I see no need. Minister, are you ready to answer? I would then like to adjourn for 3 minutes to caucus with the minister. Meeting adjourned. I now reconvene this meeting. Minister, would you like to have the floor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, thank you for the few minutes to be able to caucus about when we can be back with the answers to the questions posed. And we would like 2 weeks, and then we will be able to give the answers to the members of Parliament. No, we'll be back. Madam Chair? 2 weeks.
Members of Parliament, the Minister is asking for 2 weeks. Are we okay with that? We are. Thank you, Members of Parliament. With that, I would now like to adjourn this meeting. Minister, we thank you and your support staff for your cooperation thus far, and we look forward to seeing you here within 2 weeks. Meeting adjourned.